Yo guys, what is going on? Blossom's back and welcome back to another episode of Top Drives. Now, one thing that I never saw coming was literally how generous the prizes were going to be for the Car Wow event. Not only are the epics just absolutely amazing, but the legendary cars on offer are fantastic as well. What it seems like is that, we're basically given 3 prize cars from the epic and legendary rarities respectively to choose from, where deciding between 2 of them are really hard, and the third one is usually like the trash no one cares about. Like, for example, when it comes to the epics, I see a lot of people kind of split 50-50 between the Lotus 211 GT4 and the Chevrolet Camaro Z11LE, which once again, I will get it. I'm milking the moment. I'm literally milking the moment. I got 9 days. I already have the token. I'm just milking the moment, okay? But no one's really in the right mind going to go for the Rover Sport SVR. I mean, the thing's a piece of garbage. You max that thing out, it's 83 handling, and I mean, it used to be one of the better epic SUVs back in the day, but now it's just the definition of mid. And I think it's kind of funny because that's 74, a literal mid-tier epic, and the other 2 epics are 79. So I don't know who actually chose the Rover, but it's the same thing with the legendaries. You have the 77B, you have the 405, and then you have the McLaren short tail, which again is just so out of place. Obviously, the short tail isn't on the option board for me because I've already won the car from Call of the Wild, I believe. So it's really between the Mazda and the Peugeot, and that's exactly what today's video is going to be about. Like I said, never have I ever seen the prizes, the option prizes, be so good. In the past, we've seen things like the Dakar, the Maserati MC12, and the Carrera GT. I chose the Dakar, then I chose the Carrera GT, and then I never had a third chance to go for the Maserati MC12 anyway. So that was the 3. They're all like very prize cars. They're all like lower 80, like under 85, around 85, that kind of RQ. And then going forward, we had another choice between the Aston Martin 177 and the Dodge Challenger Demon, and I think the Ariel Atom or something like that. And obviously I have all of them, but once again, they're pretty meh cars. The Atom, you can say, is somewhat enticing, but I don't think any prize card that we've had, whether it be the Dakar, whether it be the Atom, the Demon, the 177, they are a whole level below what we are given today, what we're given from this challenge. The 787B and the Peugeot 405 are fantastic prize cars. And what I will say is this: if you are a player that don't usually compete in these challenges, but this time you feel like you might have a chance, I genuinely think it is worth it going for these cars. The 787B and the 405 T16 are very, very, very generous options. One being a 91 RQ and one being 98, which is really, really interesting, but more on that RQ in a bit. So I think a lot of people are probably like kind of on the fence on what they would like to choose. Would they want to choose the 787B or the Peugeot 405? And chances are, if you are watching this video, then you are still on the fence. Because I feel like if you're not watching this video, then you've probably already chosen, you probably already had an answer. Now the thing is, I have an answer. I know what I'm going to pick, but in this video I'm gonna let you guys, especially if you're on the fence, you don't know which car that you want to collect, I'm gonna let this video be a more informational video to kind of I guess let you know about the pros and cons of whether you want to go for the Mazda or the Peugeot. So without further ado, let's get into that comparison. Alright, so here we go, the Peugeot versus the Mazda 787B, which is, in my opinion, the better car to select for your garage. Now, let us begin. The first thing that we're going to talk about is indeed the 787B. It has 10 niches, 10 main niches, including the country of Japan, obviously where it's from, the era where it's from, which is 90s. You can also say it's 11 niches because you can also say pre-90s if you want to. It is orange, motorsport, rear-wheel drive, 1-seater, coupe, mid-engine, petrol, and it has slick tires. Now, why this is important is because we need to know how the car kind of competes against its competition within all of these niches, because we want to know how useful this car is going to be if there is ever going to be an event where this car is needed for. So obviously anything Japanese, 90s, orange, motorsport, these are times where you can use your 787B. Stats, obviously 220 miles per hour. I mean, all that we know, 2.80 to 60, really really good handling, 96 handling, and 107 MRA at 111. If you manage to max it out 233, I think it goes up to 112 or 111 MRA. It's also very, very light, coming in at 830 kilograms. Now, in the other corner, we have the Peugeot 405 T16, 11 niches. It has one extra tag, which is Wild Ride. On top of that, it's French. It's from the 80s. You can also say anything pre-80s it will be useful in. It is white. Anything pre-90s it will be useful in. It is white. It is a motorsport, four-wheel drive, one-seater, coupe, mid-engine, petrol, Wild Ride. And the big thing here is that it's off-road. Now, off-road is a double niche in my opinion, because when you are slick tires, you are literally just tied down and limited to on-road. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. Only deploying your car on a dry asphalt, there's nothing wrong with that at all. That's okay. But if you do have off-road, you need to remember that you can use this on-road and off-road as well. On the dirt, on the snow, in the sand, on ice, as long as it's not gravel and as long as it's not in the rain on the asphalt. So that is extra versatility going for the 405 already. Other stats: 140 miles per hour, 2.5, 88, 87 MRA at 111, and 950 kilograms. Now, of course, I'm not going to compare these two cars directly together, but I'll compare both of them to their competition, okay? So let us begin with the Mazda 787B. How does it stack up within its competition? First things first, we're going to look at the 90s, okay? Only the 90s, no 80s cars involved, only the 90s. And as you can see, it's stirred. Now, look, it's worse than the 905B, and the issue with the 787B is that it's always going to compete almost in every scenario with a 905B. Wherever you need a 787B, there's going to be a 905, unless it's Japanese. And that is the issue. It will never be first. It will always be behind the 905. But don't worry, when it comes to the Pikes Peak, it's usually always behind the Escudo anyway. So there's that. But one thing that I do find quite concerning is that the 787B, although it's RQ98, it is the worst car compared to the 97 Mercedes Sauber. The Mercedes is the better car for car parks, G-force, hairpin, indoor karting, karting circuits, slalom, twisty circuit, actually everything, literally everything, from twisty to drag, everything. If I were to take away the 905B times, the C11 will be the best car here, and the 787B will be the third best. Now, the good thing about this niche when it comes to the 90s is that you got, the top three, right? You got the 905, the 787, C11, and there's a big drop off. It goes to the Escudo, which is a great car, but we need to remember that it's RQ96 because of that off-road versatility. And then when you go to the next slick tire car, you got a massive drop off to the Viper GTSR that is 5 RQ less than the 787B, and those times aren't even close anymore. They're all like a second behind. And then obviously you have things like the R390, the 911 GT1, the F1 GTR, blah blah. Now moving on to the next niche is going to be Japan, and obviously the 787B is your best class Japanese car, and I think that's the main reason why a lot of people are going for the 787B, because if you are going for a Japanese garage, and if you definitely are a Japanese collector, then the 787B without a doubt is the car for you. But I do believe that if you are a Japanese collector, you wouldn't need this video to tell you to get the 787B. You would just go get it anyway. But yes, it's the best in class. It is better than the GTR LM, which is a very recent price car that we just got, better than the Furai, which a lot of players have now, but the Furai is better on the G-force and the slalom, so that's one thing to take into account. And obviously it's better, like, I guess the Escudo and the GTR and the Nismo and etc, etc, etc. One thing to take into account though is that the Escudo is actually faster to 100, and is the best car here to 100 compared to the 787B, which is actually quite incredible. Same with the hill climb and the 0 to 120 as well. But yes, without a doubt, 787B is objectively the best car for its country. Moving on to the next niche. This is pre-99. So now we're not just taking 90s cars, we're taking 99 and before, and the Audi R10, which is 2000s, but it's just there for the ride. But yeah, I'm really just doing like 90, 99 all the way to 10,000 BC if you want. And again, it's not a good showing for the 787B. It comes in 6th. It's not as good as the Pro car. It's not as good as the 905B. Once again, like I said, whenever you see a 787B, you're probably going to see the 905B if it's not Japan. It's not as good as the C11. It's not as good as the R10. Like I said, I know the R10 is not pre-99. It's just there for vibes. And it's actually not as good as the Jaguar XJR9 on the drags. Now, this is something to be concerned concerned about, because the 77B is 98, but it is definitely genuinely worse than cars cheaper in RQ. The Sauber is 97, R10 is 96, XJR is 95. So that is something to think about. Not to even say it, I mean, the XJR 9 is actually even the better car, not only on the drags, but it ties with the 787B. No, it doesn't even tie. It beats the 787B on the car park, on the G-force, on the hairpin, on the indoor karting, on karting circuit. I mean, you can look at the times over here. Yes, the 787B is better on slalom, so little wins over there, but definitely is the 6th best, so not very good considering it's the 3rd highest car in RQ. Moving on, even worse news, 7th place in motorsport. Now it's considered to be in the red numbers. Again, if you are going to argue that this is not a fair comparison, then you're probably biased towards the 787B, and if you are biased towards the 787B, hey, just go get it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think there's a genuine wrong decision here. Okay, don't get me wrong. Like, between the 787 and the Pug, I don't think there's a wrong decision to make, but I just think that there is a better decision out of the two. So 787B, again, when it comes to motorsport, it's not looking good. Definitely worse than all the cars that is above in RQ. Once again, the FAP 905, Pikes Peak, Volkswagen, and Pikes Peak Peugeot. And then again, it's not as good as the C11 and the Audi R10. So that is a massive cause for concern, that it is not as good as cars above it, which means it's not an overachiever, so it's not amazing. But again, it's not as good as cars below it in RQ, which is a cause for concern once again. 7th place in motorsport, which means that if there was a motorsport event, you wouldn't be using the 787B, especially if you are a high roller. You'd probably just be using the Peugeot, the Volkswagen, the 905, the FAP, and the Sauber. I mean, personally for me, I can use the Peugeot Pikes Peak T16, 905, FAP, Sauber, and the Audi R10 because I don't have the IDR Pikes Peak Volkswagen. That being said, so for my scenario, if I were to win a 77B, it wouldn't even be in my starting hand for a motorsport event. You see what I mean? So that's not good value. Now, moving on to orange. I mean, I guess it's first. I don't know. When it comes to drags and the fast stuff, the Avia is the best car. And then when it comes to the twisty stuff, it kind of holds hands with the Senna. Again, is it really fair to call it tied for first? The Senna is the better car. On a head-to-head, the Senna still wins more races. But then again, in a head-to-head scenario, if it's only those two cars, that also means that the Avia is not going to be in that comparison, and the 787 is better than the Senna on the drags, at least the 1 mile, the half mile. So those are little things to take into consideration, I guess, and they tie on the quarter mile. That being said, though, that's why I said, like, I guess they're tied for first. Like, you can say when it comes to orange, again, we've never had a challenge or event where we needed only orange cars. Then I guess the 77B will be really, really good over there, because the Senna and the Avia and the 787B, you know, as long as it fits in the top 5, then you can make a hand out of the car. Now, next, again, another orange, that was a duplicate. Now we move on to the Pikes Peak. So how good is the Peugeot 405? First of all, we start off in the off-road / motorsport category, because literally almost every legendary off-road tire car is also motorsport, so I might as well just put them together. And as you can see, it's alright. It's about 2nd place, only behind the Escudo. You take away the Escudo, and then the 405 is better. Now, one thing that the Peugeot 405 can do that the 787 cannot do is that the 405 is actually better than cars higher in RQ. When it came to the 787B, it was never better than a car that was higher than RQ98. But for the 405, as you can see, it actually is the better car compared to the Lancia Delta. And there's a very, very simple explanation to that. When it comes to the off-road meta, off-road is everything. And as you can see, the 405 has 1 more handling compared to the Delta. So in Top Drive's logic, as long as you have more handling, you are the better car, full stop. And as you can see, it is the better car for G-force, hairpin, twisty road, twisty circuit, slalom tests, and then there's not a lot of times for anything else. But you can probably bet your ass that the 405 is a very, very competitive car against the Delta Lancia, which is 3 RQ higher. It's also better than all cars lower in RQ, the only outlier being the 206 WRC being like ridiculously ridiculously good on the hairpin for some reason. I don't know if the timing on that is correct or wrong. It seems a bit sus that even the Peugeot is beating the Escudo by half a second. I don't know if that's a true time or not, but you know, for the most part, the 405 is the second best car here, only behind the Escudo. Now it's third for on-road motorsport. So when it comes to on-road, then that one extra handling that the 405 provides isn't as crucial anymore, and this is where the Lancia turns out to be the better car. I did not put the times for the Escudo because the Escudo would just have taken all the greens. So over here you can see the 405 is still relatively competitive, and it actually beats the S4 Rally on the twisty circuit, fast circuit rolling, and 0 to 100 because it has 85 MRA, which is really strong. Again, like, you can say that the Delta is the better car because it wins more races, and it is, but you need to realize, you know, you have to commend the Peugeot 405 for actually trading blows with a car that's 3 RQ higher. So that's pretty impressive. That being said, though, the 205 T16 very impressive as well. Best car for the car park G-Force because it's the lightest car there. Moving on, now we want to talk about just more stuff. So we want to talk about, you know, on-road and dirt, because realistically, this was dirt on-road motorsport. So next up, we're going to move to French. So these are French cars only. And as you can see, when it comes to French cars only, the 405 is the best car for on-road, and it seems to be the joint best car for dirt. See, we don't know that much because there aren't many times for the 405 yet. I would assume that if there were times for rallycross, small, medium hairpin, airplane slalom, etc., it will be beating the Peugeot 205 T16. But again, we don't have those times. I don't have the T16 Pikes Peak Max, so I cannot get the times for you as well. But it looks like the T16 Pikes Peak 405 is going to be the best one there. As you can see, it's the best one on-road conditions among French motorsport off-roader cars, and it's probably going to be the best when it comes to dirt. Same comparison, you know, French off-road motorsport in the sand and in the snow, and again, the 405 is the best available option. Again, the 205 T16 Pikes Peak seems to be the best car for the G-Force, and in some scenarios, the slalom, and that's mainly because the 205 T16 is a lot lighter. So, in summary, the 787B is the best Japanese on-road car. That is a positive. It's also a LMP legend. Now, that's highlighted in red because I feel like most people are choosing the 787B because of what it is. It is a Japanese legend by right. It is a Le Mans winner, you know? But some negatives about the 787B is that it's in very heavy competition. It's not 2017 anymore where the Porsche 962 is the only Le Mans car in the game. There's so many now. There's the 787, the FAP, the Sauber, the GT1, there's the 919 hybrid. Again, that's not even out, but when it will be out, it will be blasting the 787B all the way to Gapplebees. So the problem with the 787B is that it's highly contested in almost every niche it runs in. Okay, so not only motorsport, but even in the 90s and the 80s, yes, it's still among the top 5, but who's to say it will be there forever? The Peugeot 405 has a lot more breathing room because the competition is a lot smaller, and it's the second best in almost every regard, only behind the Escudo. It's always among the top 3 in any comparison. It is also a club cow, a club cash cow, because once again, if you play clubs, you know that there's always 100% going to at least be one off-road track set. So obviously that's where the 405 is going to shine, because there's always going to be an off-road track set, so there's a very high chance you're going to need to use it. And once again, it's the best French off-roader car. So there are more positives to the Peugeot in my opinion. That being said, comment down below which price car you are going to get, whether you can win it or not. Which one would you have chosen? I do believe that more people are going to go for the 787B anyway, but let's get back into the game. As I said, I do believe that more people are going to go for the 787B anyway because of what it is. It's kind of like when you watch a classic Top Gear episode where Jeremy does, you know, I think the best scenario is this. The best one was, I think Jeremy was doing a comparison between an Audi R8 and a Ferrari 458, I think it was. And basically in that comparison, when they were driving through Monaco, the Audi i8 was the better car. It had better value, it had better performance, it had better reliability, fuel mileage, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the episode, Jeremy Clarkson still said, but I would still choose the Ferrari. And I think it's the same thing over here. I think that the Peugeot, which is what I have chosen, is the sensible option. It is a better option in my opinion, but at the end of the day, I don't think it really matters. I think most of you are going to choose a 787B anyway. As long as you're not choosing the McLaren, then I don't think you will have any brain issues. But anyway, guys, that's going to be it for today. Welcome to the Garage 405 T16. I am very happy to have you. Definitely was going to choose that in a heartbeat, and as you can see, it is immediately my second best off-road tire car in my garage. And I think that's what matters the most to me, because if I were to bring in the the 787B, it wouldn't be the second best. I have a Max Pikes Peak, I have a 905, an HDI, a Max C11, I have a Max Club Sport 25, which will be better than the one-star 787B. I also have the Revolution, I have, the Max Pro car, I have an upgraded GTR LM. That was just too much competition. But anyway, guys, that's gonna be it for today. I hope you guys have a great day. I'm gonna stay safe, wash your hands, and blossom out. Peace.
Bro, this song just makes me so happy.
Me too.
Imagine being Asian in the 50s, looking nifty, leather jacket, looking sleek, look like Presley, look so deadly. Got a jukebox back at home, feeling jazzy, turn it on and play it slow, like the movies with the ladies.
They so fine.
Imagine being Asian in the 50s, looking nifty, leather jacket, looking sleek, look like Presley, look so deadly. Got a jukebox back at home, feeling jazzy, turn it on and play it slow, like the movies with the ladies.
They so fine.
Sit back, relax in my bonnet.